Acpn 科学家专家青少年面对面系列活动现在开始。Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Acpn's Wellness Leadership Program for our community, family, kids, and youth. My name is Joe Song, and this is Sandy. We are honored to be your MCs for this evening.
大家好，我是主持人梁伟芳，欢迎大家来到 Acpn 科学家专家青少年面对面系列活动的现场。本次活动由 Acpn 主办，加拿大联邦政府、加拿大就业和社会发展部、加拿大红十字会资助，以帮助因新冠病毒疫情健康受到影响的人群。本次活动在加拿大新动力电视台演播厅举行，同时通过网络全球同步直播，欢迎大家收看。Acpn 致力于连接世界领先的健康管理科学，帮助社区、家庭、儿童、青少年构建提升健康的三大力量：全息科学力、智慧教育力、健康引领力。今天我们荣幸地邀请到加拿大顶级的引领力演讲者 CJ.Youth.Family 为大家带来提升健康的三大根本力量之一——健康引领力。
CJ.Youth.Family is a professional speaker and author of Bouncing Back Through COVID-19. He speaks on a daily basis, has hosted more than 5,000 sessions before world-class organizations.
CJ 是一位作家，同时也是北美顶级的领导力演讲家。他已经为 IBM、银行、病童医院等北美大企业举办了5000多场关于领导力的研讨会。由于他的专业知识，他一直是多伦多 CTTV 早餐电视栏目的特邀嘉宾。青少年家庭健康管理科学引领力是 Acpn 的创新主题。CJ 是世界上第一个以此主题的演讲者。他将带领我们一起讨论领导力如何运用于健康管理的科学领域，为家庭、为青少年带来不一样的全新的健康理念，以及提升健康科学引领的新力量。
Please put your hands together for CJ.Youth.Family. Today, CJ will take to the stage to discuss leadership and how it can be applied to the arena of health and nutrition and help us start the power of wellness leadership.
掌声有请。
Absolutely. Thank you, folks. I appreciate the gracious introduction from Sandy and Joe. My name is CJ.Youth.Family, and today we are talking about leadership for the wellness industry. Over the course of our time together today, we're going to be discussing what leadership is, how you can improve your leadership ability and apply those qualities at home, at school, in your career, and inspire those around you to pursue wellness in all areas of their life. Let's begin. When you think about leadership, what does leadership mean to you? Probably the best starting place is to, in our minds, begin to picture the people who we consider to be leaders. You might automatically think of a politician, for example, Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden. You might think of a business leader like Jack Ma or Bill Gates, Elon Musk. You might think of a civil rights leader like Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela. Maybe when you think of leadership, you think of somebody in your personal life. You think of one of your school teachers, your mom and dad. Maybe you think of somebody who you've worked with that inspired you. My goal for our time together is not just that you have a picture of other leaders, but that you start to think in your own mind of yourself as a leader. I want you to walk out of our time together today improving your own leadership qualities. But it helps to have that picture in our mind. And so when you think of these other people who are leaders, think of what words come to mind when you're trying to describe their leadership abilities. So just in your mind, think right now, what makes these people leaders? What makes these politicians, these military leaders, these athletic leaders hold that position? Maybe the qualities that you consider are qualities that they set an example. Perhaps the quality is that they have power and influence. Maybe they have a lot of people following them, either on social media or following them in real life. Maybe the quality is that they motivate you. Maybe the quality is that they have set an example that inspires you to go to a higher level. What is the quality when you think of a leader that comes to your mind? And so as we start to discuss leadership, I want you to think of the qualities that you want to improve in yourself. What qualities do you think you would like to get better at? And so as we start thinking about this today, we're going to dive more and more into it. And so as we're talking about Acpn, the Association of Certified Professional Nutritionists, and applying leadership in the wellness industry, I want to start first with the principle that leaders focus on wellness. Leaders have an absolute focus on health and nutrition. Can we all agree that if you're in the hospital, attached to respirators, on life support, it's very difficult to lead other people? Can we agree to that? Absolutely. In fact, it's interesting, I was back in my sales days that I was holding my stomach and just complaining of so much pain. And one of my colleagues says, "That's your appendix." I say, no, this is before my bodybuilding days. I say, no, that's just McDonald's. I had some McDonald's, I've got some indigestion. That's all it is. I just have a tummy ache. My friend says, no, right there, that's your appendix. You've got to go to the hospital. I say, no, it's not my appendix. I've just had some indigestion. It'll be fine. And my friend says, look, that's your appendix where you're holding. And if your appendix ruptures, people have died from that. You need to go to the hospital. Well, I'll tell you, one way to get my attention, just mention death. That gets my attention right away. And so I turned to all my colleagues in my sales organization and I said, I'm sure this will be fine, but okay, I'll go to the hospital, but folks, I'll be back by lunchtime. And I was back by lunchtime. 2 weeks later, after emergency surgery to remove my appendix that was about to explode. My point of the story is, as I was being wheeled into emergency surgery, I had my cell phone and I'm phoning all of my partners, all of my colleagues and clients saying, cancel everything, I'm going into emergency surgery. All of a sudden, all of my business priorities were no longer very important. All of my social get-togethers, hey, let's get together for a barbecue or a movie, all of that got canceled because now my life was on the line. Can we all agree that if we don't take care of our health, we can't be in the position to inspire other people? Does that make sense? So we want to set the example of leadership with the foundational principle, let's take care of our health and inspire others to do the same. It's interesting that I began my own health and wellness journey 17 years ago. In fact, 17 years ago, I just come through career burnout. I'd been working 100, 105 hours a week. I was absolutely exhausted, incredibly sick, and all of my colleagues were like, man, you need to take a break. This is not going to be good for you. And I sat down for the very first time in August of 2004, almost 17 years ago now, middle of August 2004, and I met a man who would become one of my greatest friends. His name is Tom Kiatipis, and Tom was a high school phys ed teacher and a competitive bodybuilder. He was a fitness coach, and he was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, just huge muscles. And he would always be eating fruit and vegetables and just had rippling veins and muscles. This guy could bench press a freight train. He was incredible. And I sat down. I'm 5'8", and in 2004, I was 29 years of age, and I weighed 120 pounds. So that's very slim. That's like when I was back in high school, if it got really windy, the wind would just blow me into the lockers because I was so slim. I needed to put on some muscle. So my coach, now one of my best friends, I sit down to meet this guy and I say, Tom, I need to improve my health and wellness. I'm spending too much time in the hospital. I can't inspire and lead my sales teams. It's affecting my career. It's affecting everything in my life. I've got to improve my health. And so he starts working me, and he puts me on a diet of healthy food and an exercise regimen. And in 90 days of time, I put on 27 pounds of muscle. I added 27 pounds of muscle, and I dropped down to 6% body fat and started competing in and winning awards in bodybuilding contests. Now, some of you are looking at me thinking, this guy doesn't look that big. Well, I was competing in lightweight contests, so like little guys, okay? But I was starting to compete in these fitness contests. Fast forward 17 years later. Tom is the godfather of my son, one of my best friends, and yet again, I'm in a fitness contest with Tom. Now, because of COVID-19, it's all over the internet, it's all virtual right now. But I want you to think about this. He's inspired me, and I started to pursue excellence in my own physical fitness. And over the course of the last 17 years, Tom has inspired thousands and thousands and thousands of people to pursue excellence in their health and wellness, nutrition, and exercise. Because Tom is a leader. If you don't have your health, you've got nothing. Fast forward to this afternoon, as I was preparing for my time together with you today, reviewing these notes, getting my mind in the right headspace to share with you and serve you today. And I had 2 events happen within a couple of hours today that I had no idea would happen. The first one was my 13-year-old getting ready to start high school. So I see we've got a lot of students. You guys look about ready for high school. Getting ready for high school right here? No? You look right there. You look like you're ready for high school. Yeah, or university. University, something, college? Okay. Maybe I'm bad at guessing ages. But you look sharp in your suit, buddy. You look really sharp in that suit. So my 13-year-old is getting ready for high school. And he comes to me, and I'm now posting all of my fitness stuff on Facebook. And I'm in this fitness contest. And my son says, "Dad, can you help me get in shape in time for high school in September?" And I felt really excited about that because my example was starting to inspire him. And so he gets on the treadmill, and I'd done 20 minutes this morning, and my son goes for 21 minutes. And puts it on Facebook. He says, "Dad, film it. I did more than you on the treadmill." And he says, "I want you to post it on Facebook and tell all your friends that I beat you." You know what? I was happy to do so. And what was really neat was my example was starting to inspire him. But my example came because my fitness coach 17 years ago set the example and has followed through every year for 17 years. So my son being inspired to want to improve himself today, I can trace it right back to my coach because my coach was exhibiting leadership. That's the one of the 2 stories, the first story. 2 hours later, my wife gets a telephone call that one of her very good friends has cancer in her liver, cancer in her lungs, and is not expected to survive. Right in the middle of COVID. So she doesn't have COVID, but this is obviously in the middle of COVID. And there's no chance that this friend of hers that she's had as a friend since she was 16 is going to survive. And my wife is heartbroken right now. And it was interesting as I was traveling over here thinking about the contrast between the 2 lives. This lady, who's incredibly ill, this good friend of my wife, has such a caring heart. She's got such a spirit of wanting to volunteer and wanting to serve, and she has such a kind spirit. And very soon, she will not be able to share her special kind spirit with the world because she chose not to exhibit leadership in her own health and wellness. You can have the most incredible intellect. You can have the most incredible artistic ability. You can be one of the best athletes or have an entrepreneurial mind that could change the world, but you have to take care of your health in order to serve all of the rest of the community. Does that make sense? So as we begin to look at leadership with our health and wellness, what we want to do is understand some of the principles of leadership so that we can start to inspire those around us. So John Maxwell is a very powerful, very famous leadership author. He's written many books. One of the books is The 5 Levels of Leadership. I encourage you to check out this book because his work is remarkable. And he says there's 5. Oh, look at that. I'm practicing hitting all my buttons. Luckily, I've got the thing memorized. So let's see if I can go back to it. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. And so I got to make sure that I don't hit the buttons before I'm ready to share the slide. By the way, for those of you youngsters in the room, you notice that I just I had a little accident here hitting the button. And sometimes you might be called up to give a speech on stage and something might go wrong. And I want to let you know, I'm a professional speaker and I just made a mistake on stage. And it is 100% okay if and when you make a mistake on stage to just roll with it. Is that okay? Yeah, don't worry about it. Nothing bad is, like Carrie's not going to take me out back afterwards and run over me with a car or anything because I hit the little PowerPoint button. Stuff happens. And so get up and do your best in all circumstances. Know that we're all human, we all make little mistakes, and just roll with it and have some fun, okay? So anyway, the 5 levels of leadership. John Maxwell says the first level of leadership is position, that you have a job title. And so this might be, I'm your mom and dad, do as I say. I'm your school teacher, do as I say. I'm your boss at work, do as I say. And so thinking of bosses at work as a simple example, as you get older, for the youngsters, and those of you, of course, who are closer to my age in the room, in your career, you might have worked with people that their leadership style is to tell you, do as I say because I'm the boss, because I've got manager on my title. And that, though legitimate, is the lowest level of leadership. It's the lowest level of leadership. Because if a boss tells you, do as I say because I told you so, or if you're a parent in the room, if you tell your kids, do as I say because I told you so, then they're following you not because they know it's a good idea, but because of authority. And there's a time and place for that, but in our home, this is the way that we live. We believe Braden, our son, should do as we say, but he is allowed to ask us why. So when we ask him to do something, he's absolutely allowed to say, why do I need to do that? And then we give him an answer. Now, to the youngsters, you have to be respectful if you ask why. We will give our son an answer, and he may not like the answer, but we've at least now given him an answer because we want to teach him how to think. We want to develop him into a young leader. And if we tell him what to do, even if it's good advice, and we separate it from understanding why he should do that good thing, we take away part of his education. Every single time anyone does anything, it's an opportunity to learn. And so even if your kids are off track, even if they're doing something they should stop doing, you have every right to say, stop doing it. But I also recommend that they should be allowed to ask you why, and that you should be excited about that. That you should actually say, hey, this is a chance that I can teach them so that they understand my thinking, so that when I'm not here to tell them don't do that, they understand the thinking behind it. That's the value. In a job situation, when the manager says, do as I say because I'm the manager, then the employees will do that, but as soon as the manager walks away, the employees won't do anything else. They'll just kind of sit there waiting to be told what to do. And if you want to lead people, you don't want to have people that just do what you say. You want them to develop so that they can become leaders as well. So the next stage of leadership is actually the relationships behind your leadership ability. And so I want you to think right now, for those of you, we've all been through school, the youngsters in the room, if you've got a teacher that you really like the teacher, and the teacher asks the class, okay, everyone settle down. If you really like them, you're more likely to settle down. Does that make sense? If you really like the teacher. The adults in the room, if your boss says, please do this, and you really, really like the boss, like you think they're fantastic, you're more likely to do it because you like them. But if you can't stand them, it takes all the energy in the world to follow their direction because there's no relationship. So the next level of leadership is that you formed a bit of a bond. There's a bit of caring, that people aren't just an object to you, you actually care about them. And this is a great quality. This is a great next step up. I remember as a young guy, I was working in the fast food industry. I was 17 years old, and I really liked my manager. And it's amazing that when you like the person who's leading you, you're willing to do a little bit more. If you don't like them, you'll just do the bare minimum. But if you really like them, you're willing to do a little bit more. So that's a good quality to have. The next level of leadership up is performance, that you are producing results. And so this is where you may not necessarily like the person, there's not necessarily a bond, but you really respect and admire them. You really respect and admire them. Maybe they've got results in an area, they're an amazing athlete, an amazing business leader, or they set an example that you can respect their results. Maybe your parents play the piano. You think, my mom is really good at playing the piano, I want to follow that example. And you can hear her practicing the piano every day, and because of her performance, you want to follow that. That's a great place to be. But sometimes it divorces people from the relationship. You may not feel that the person cares about you. So now we get to the fourth level. And the fourth level of leadership that John Maxwell talks about is people development. People development is where you actually help the person grow. So you as a parent, you could tell your kids, eat vegetables because I said so. Or you could say, eat vegetables because we're friends and I care about you. You know, maybe you're friends, maybe you're a teacher, or as a parent, because I love you. Eat vegetables because you love me and I love you. Or you could say, eat your vegetables because I'm a competitive bodybuilder and look at my six-pack, and if you want to get the results I have, then you should do that to get my results. Or you work with them to help them accomplish their goal. And the very best leaders that I've ever interacted with, at home, at work, in the community, are those leaders who help the people around them get better. I want you to think right now in your own life, the leader who personally has been the most influential to you, the leader who's meant the most to you. And I'll bet that after having spent time with them, you became better. You learned from them. Give me a show of hands if you can relate to that. You learned from them. You became a better person because of that. Absolutely. And so people development, for most of us here in the room, is kind of the highest aspirational level. Now, there is a fifth level, and that's called personhood. That is so difficult to reach. It is reserved for people that are iconic throughout history, such as Winston Churchill or Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela, people that have literally changed the world. And you've reached personhood when you could literally pass away and people still follow your example, even though you're gone. People still follow the example you set because of your life. Mother Teresa would be another example. So somebody who is so inspirational, they can inspire people even beyond the grave. That is an amazing level to reach. So something to be aware of. Now, all of these people who are people development and personhood leaders, they share something in common. Different from setting a small goal to get through the week, they actually cast a vision. So leaders cast a vision. I want you to consider right now, as we're talking about health and wellness with Acpn, what vision do you have? What vision do you have for your life? What vision do you have for your family? What vision do you have for your community? What vision do you have for your world? And vision is a little bit different than a goal. A goal might be, I want to tidy the garage. That's a goal. I want to mow the lawn. Also a goal. I want to save $100. That's a goal. A vision takes goal setting to a whole new level because a vision is inspirational and specifically paints a picture of the way the world will look once you've accomplished it. The very best example I could ever give you is from Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream. Give me a show of hands if you've heard of the speech, I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King. Incredible speech. And those of you who are listening, I encourage you after our time together today to look that up online. Look that up on YouTube and watch that speech by Martin Luther King, August 28th, 1963. At the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, 250,000 people were in attendance. And I might be paraphrasing the words a little bit. You'll hear it more accurately on YouTube. But he says, I have a dream that one day little black boys and little black girls will be able to play with little white boys and little white girls. And that somebody will be judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. So he's describing the way the world will look once the vision has been accomplished. A vision not only inspires, not only paints a picture, but it also attracts followers. And as you repeat your vision over and over, as he did in his speech, I have a dream, I have a dream, I have a dream, people will be attracted to that vision. So what's your vision? Maybe that question actually startles you a little bit, because maybe the question seems so big you haven't really thought of it. And that's okay. That's the reason you're here today. That's the reason you're listening to this message, is to begin thinking about this stuff. What might your vision be? Well, some examples of your vision might be, I want to inspire the people around me to live a healthy lifestyle. Or I want to help 100 families live a cancer-free life. Or I want to help the educational system add more health and nutrition into the curriculum. Or I want to help kids in my neighborhood stop eating junk food. I'm just giving some simple examples. Maybe your vision is I want to help 100 people sign up on a marathon and lose 100 pounds each. That's a vision. That's kind of a cool thing. So what are some of your things? What are some of your visions? And as you think about what the vision will be, and you start to assemble and attract people around you, you might fall into a common trap. And the common trap is the people that I'm attracting to my vision, that I'm leading in my vision, they're not doing enough to make my vision come true. That's a very common mistake that entry-level leaders might make. And so what you actually want to do is say, instead of looking at the other people that I'm attracting and saying how they need to change, a good leader says, what do I need to do for me to change to attract the people that I want? So with any area that you're involved in, any group you're involved in, is anyone, by the way, involved in a sports team, as an example? Anyone on a team of any kind? Soccer, baseball, swimming, no teams? One team at the back? What team are you on? What sort of activity? Running, a jogging team. Fantastic, great. So at the beginning of COVID, my wife got involved with her office. My wife is an HR director. She got involved with her office doing a walking challenge, and they would post their steps. You guys have heard of this, how you can have your Fitbit attached to your iPhone, and you can actually track how many steps you do each day. So my wife gets involved in this at the beginning of COVID, and it becomes fiercely competitive, where all of a sudden everyone in the office is competing to win this walking contest. And my wife is the HR director, so she's got to set an example of leadership, and they're getting into different teams. And it would be very, very simple for somebody to say, hey, the 10 people on my walking team, they're not walking enough. The people I'm leading aren't doing enough for me to win. That's a common leadership mistake, to think that the people you're leading, that they need to change. Actually, what we need to do is we need to point the finger back at ourselves and say, if I want the 10 people I'm leading to change, if I want them to walk more, what do you think I need to do? I need to walk more, exactly. I need to walk more. That is the essence of leadership. If I want the people following me to do more, I need to do more first. Which leads us to our next point. You got to lead from the front. If you are going to inspire people and attract them to your vision, your cause, your goal, your mission, you want to inspire them to lead a healthy lifestyle, you've got a team of people you want to have walk more, you need to walk the most. So if you want them to walk 5,000 steps a day, you need to walk 6,000. Very simple leadership principle. In fact, here's what will happen sometimes. Some leaders get surprised when their team doesn't perform. So if they're only walking 5,000 steps, they're shocked that their team is only walking 2,000 or 3,000 steps. Hey, guess what? That's leadership. If you want your team to walk 5,000 steps a day, you need to be walking 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 steps a day. You need to be doing a little bit more than the people you're inspiring. It is unlikely, it's very, very rare, that the people that are following you are going to outperform you. If that ever happens, that's a real bonus. But it's not usual. Usually, the people that are following you are going to do a little bit less. The very nature of your role as a leader is you need to set that example. And so you need to be out in front. My background is leading and building sales teams. For 16 years, actually 26 years, I led and built sales teams. And very, very rarely would I ever have somebody outsell me in a month, outperform me in a month. On the rare cases that one of my guys actually did more sales than me, actually outperformed me, first of all, I was thrilled because I would make more money. My bonus was affected by their performance, so I was super happy for them. And you know what I would say? I'd say, man, let's see you do it again next month. And year after year after year, there would be occasional times where somebody for 1 month might blip up for a month, but nobody could outperform me year after decade. I was always outperforming the rest of my sales team over the long term. If you want to inspire people in health and wellness, you can't be saying, okay, all of you eat healthy. I'm going to go have some Dunkin' Donuts. I'm going to go have some Krispy Kreme. But you guys eat fruits and veggies. I'm leading the health and wellness team. No, I'm going to have some Dunkin' Donuts and some Krispy Kreme donuts and Mars bars and potato chips and popcorn. That stuff is all tasty. Your mouth likes it, but your abs don't like it. And so people are going to follow your example. So you need in your mind to be thinking, whatever I want my team to do, I need to do a little bit more. That's the mindset you need to have. If I want them to put out 10 units of effort, I need to put out 11 units of effort. I need to do a little bit more. One of the movies that I like is a movie, We Were Soldiers, and it stars Mel Gibson. And he was a leader that led from the front. So he was the first guy off of the helicopter, and he waited for all of his team to get back on before he got back on. He was the last one back on. He was always willing to lead from the front. The principle being, he would never ask his team to do something that he was not personally willing to do. And so as you start to think about leadership with health and wellness, and you want to inspire the people around you, there's two ways of inspiring them. One way is to tell them what to do. You can send them a helpful link on YouTube. You could say, wow, I just saw this fantastic video on YouTube on how to lose weight. Thought you would like it. And you can send them the video. Now, they might be offended by that. Depends upon who the person is. You know, a better way to inspire them is for you to go onto social media and to say, I am going to lose weight. I am going to get in shape. I am going to throw away the junk food in my house. I'm going to start eating more healthfully. Who wants to join me? And that will attract many more people. Other than just saying you should go do this, no. Skip right past that and actually show leadership. You do the good thing that you want to see other people do. So as you're starting to think about building a team of people, attracting people to your cause, inspiring people in health and wellness, I want you to start thinking not just of your vision, but breaking it down to some very specific goals. What are going to be the goals that you want to accomplish in the health and wellness area? So I want you to think right now. If you've got a pen and a piece of paper, feel free to write it down. If you want to use your cell phone, feel free to jot it in your cell phone. Don't go on to Facebook and check your texts and all that stuff. But I want you, if you don't have those in your mind, to think of what your goal might be. And so when I ask people, what are your goals for yourself? It's amazing the answers I get back. I personally love setting goals. Absolutely love setting goals. One of my favorite things to do. If you walk into my home, I've got my goals for my health, my finances, my career, all my personal projects. I've got my goals typed up and printed all over the house. If you come into my house, my goals are scotch taped to the front door. They're scotch taped to the wall beside my bed. They're scotch taped to the wall beside my computer in my office. They're scotch taped in the bathroom. Everywhere, all over the place. My goals are all over my home. Now, I say before that I'm a competitive bodybuilder. I used to be a personal trainer, so I used to get paid to teach people to get in shape. And there was one time of the year that the vast majority of people set a goal to lose weight and get in shape. What do you think is the most common time every single year that lots and lots of people start thinking, I am going to lose weight and I'm going to get in shape? What time of the year do you think that might be? New Year's, exactly. People set New Year's resolutions. Number one New Year's resolution, I am going to lose weight and get in shape. That's the most popular resolution, followed by I'm going to quit smoking and I'm going to save money and stop drinking alcohol and mend my relationships and pursue the career that I want. But the number one goal for New Year's resolutions is lose weight and get in shape. Everyone understand that? For sure. And so I'd be working at my gym, and it was amazing. The first 3 weeks of January, we would sell thousands and thousands and thousands of memberships. Far more memberships than human beings could actually fit inside the building. There's no room for all the people who bought memberships. And it was kind of annoying because we'd be at the gym and people would be paying a lot of money to get personal training, and there'd be a big lineup in front of all of the different equipment to use the treadmill and use the barbells and the dumbbells. And so it would bother people. There's this big lineup. But I had faith. By about January 20th, all the lineups would fade away. Not that any of you know what I'm talking about. But the lineups would start to fade away. Why? Because people were not following through on their goals. And so I want you to think for yourself, what goals do you have? I'll tell you some of my fitness goals right now. You can walk into my home, they're on the wall. I'm in this fitness contest right now. I want my six-pack back by August 29th. Ripped six-pack. So you can follow me on Facebook and you can check that out. I'm going to be doing that over the next 7 weeks. Ripped six-pack by August 29th. Another goal, I want to bench press 225 pounds free weight for 10 reps by December 31st. Another goal, I want to do 100 push-ups without stopping. 100 push-ups, okay? I can't yet do 100 push-ups, so this is a goal that I want to accomplish. So I've just named 3 fitness goals. What are some of your fitness goals? I bet if I sat with you individually, especially the older ones in the audience who are closer to my age, if I asked each one of you individually what your goal is, most people's first goal is the number on the scale. The number on the scale. Not bench press or reps or how many miles I want to run, but I want to weigh this much on the scale. That's a pretty common goal. So in your mind right now, think of what your goal is. A better goal might be your dress size or your pants size, because muscle is denser than fat. And so your body shape can change, but the scale might stay the same. Does that make sense? So when you put on muscle and decrease fat, the scale might remain absolutely the same number on the scale, but you're getting into incredible shape. So sometimes the weight can be a little bit deceptive. So if you're thinking of a personal goal that you want to set for yourself with health and wellness, and the first goal that comes to mind is weight, that's okay. It's a good goal. It's a good starting place, because usually that means losing some fat. But what I also encourage you to do is think more in terms of the overall shape and size and endurance and cardiovascular strength that you want. Not just, I want to lose some weight, but how far do I want to be able to run? What mobility issues do I have? Especially as you're getting into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, do I want to be able to stretch and lift and move so that I remain healthy and vibrant? Maybe your goal is, as you have grandkids, you want to be able to run beside them as they're riding on their bicycle. Maybe as we get out of COVID-19, we start traveling more. Maybe your goal is that you'd like to be able to travel all around the world without any aches and pains. You've got the energy to walk all day and visit all the sites. Maybe your goal is you'd like to run a 26-kilometer marathon. Maybe that's your goal. Maybe an Ironman. Maybe you want to be in a fitness contest. Or maybe you want to decrease your body fat percentage and your cholesterol level. Maybe the doctor has come back with some bad news. And the doctor said, this problem over here, this has to get addressed. And they've given you some numbers that are a little bit scary. And the numbers have you worried. And maybe your goal is to address that specific situation. But in your mind right now, think of what your goal is. Okay, so everyone think of a goal. You don't have to say it out loud, but just think of what the goal is in your mind. What is your health goal for yourself? Now let's apply the SMART criteria. The first level is being specific. Some people might say, I just want my health to get better, CJ. And that's an okay goal, but it's not really specific. Specific would be, I want my body fat to decrease, my cholesterol level to decrease, my lean muscle mass to increase, my cardiovascular endurance to increase. That's much more specific than just, I want my health to improve. However, it's not yet measurable. So the next criteria we want to add is making the goal measurable. And so say, I want to lose weight, or more specifically, I want to lose fat. That's an okay goal, but it's not really measurable yet. The way we make the goal measurable, hear this loud and clear, is you have to have a number. You have to have a quantifiable criteria attached to the goal. So don't just say, I want to do more or less. That's not measurable. Say, I want to be able to run 10 kilometers without stopping. I want to be able to do 50 push-ups. Now it's measurable. I want the scale to read 160. I want to fit into a 34 pant size. That's measurable. Does everybody get that? Okay, fantastic. Now we want to make sure that the goal is achievable. Because if you say to me, CJ, I have a goal of losing 30 pounds. I say, fantastic, that's a great goal. And then you say, I will have a goal of losing 30 pounds by Saturday. Not achievable. I mean, not really. I mean, you could go into the surgery and chop off a leg with a chainsaw or something. I guess that is a way of accomplishing the goal, but it's not really a good way. So sometimes the goal is a great goal, but it's maybe not achievable. So perhaps you might say, I want to lose 10 pounds by Friday, or something that might be a little bit of a stretch, and there's a way of kind of fudging the numbers and cheating the system a little bit to kind of fake the goal. And some people will do this with diets. Some people, as they're trying to hit their health goal, they will kind of go on a crash diet. And they'll use some strategies that long-term, first of all, isn't healthy, and secondly, is not sustainable. So you can't keep up the pattern for a long time. Maybe you can keep it up for a week, but you can't keep it up for 10 years. So even if you lose the weight a little bit, you're going to put it back on in a month. So the plan may not be achievable by using the current plan. Or your operational pace, the level of activity, you're not putting in enough activity. Maybe the plan works great, but you're just not doing the work. You need to do a goal and set a goal that is achievable. The fourth one is relevant. Does the goal matter? So you say, CJ, I want my health and wellness to improve. I want to lose weight. And the way that I'm going to lose weight is I'm going to shave the hair off of my head. That will help me lose weight. I guess, an ounce. I tried. Not effective. Now, it's just from being 46, buddy. But my son makes fun of me because he says, hey, Dad, your head doesn't look like the photo on your book anymore. Looking at my last book from 10 years ago, I'm like, hey, I buy your food. You show respect. So you want to make sure that the goal that you have is relevant, that it actually makes sense. So you could say, I want to lose weight, and the way that I'm going to do that is to buy new clothing. Well, maybe, but it's not really going to do it for you. So sometimes you want to share your goal, well, not sometimes, as a good general principle, share your goal with somebody that's got more results than you, a little further down the path. They can tell you that this is a good way to do it. The final criteria for a SMART goal is making sure that it is time-bound. What is the deadline for your goal? A lot of people will say, CJ, I'm going to do a specific goal. I'm going to lose body fat. Great. I'm going to make it measurable. I'm going to lose 20 pounds of body fat. Great. It's achievable. I'm not going to do it by Friday. I'm going to give myself time. Fantastic. But then they don't set a deadline. They say, someday I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Someday. You might as well not even start. If you say to yourself, someday I'm going to get this goal, I got bad news for you. You're never going to get the goal. You have to set a deadline for the goal. What is the day the goal is due? And so you say to yourself, I am going to lose 10 pounds by 90 days from now. So maybe you say to yourself, October 1st, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Let's add the year, October 1st, 2021. Because you might say to yourself, I meant next year. Say the year. What's the actual day you're going to have this done? So again, I've given some of mine. August 29th, I'm wrapping up a fitness contest I'm in right now. December 31st, I've got my goal for bench press and for push-ups. Those are some of my goals that have deadlines right now. So as you're thinking about your goal, as you want to inspire people and lead people on a path to health and wellness, what is the deadline you have for your goal? When do you want to accomplish the goal? I would encourage you, if you want to take it a final step, write the goal down and do what I did. Print it off and put it all over your house. In fact, if you really want to have some fun, go on to Facebook this afternoon and text it out to the world. Tell everybody on Facebook your goal and the day you're going to get it done. I did that this last summer. I was in the middle of COVID, along with the rest of the world, and I hadn't eaten really any junk food from January 1st to July 1st, really nothing at all. And then I did some kitchen renovations, and I got frustrated. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. Doing some renovations, you get a little bit upset and frustrated. I got a little bit upset and frustrated, and right in the middle of COVID-19, hadn't had junk food in 6 months, I started to eat potato chips. I love the taste of potato chips. I don't like wearing potato chips on my tummy, but I love putting potato chips in my mouth. There is a problem there. My mouth loves them, but my abs don't love them. And literally in about 2 months of time, I gained 10 pounds in 2 months of eating tons of potato chips. And I'm a competitive bodybuilder, and I get paid to teach this stuff. And I started eating junk food in the middle of COVID. And so, I know none of you did this, But I've heard stories of other people in the middle of COVID who they've gained some weight through COVID because COVID was a little bit stressful. Not you, but give me a show of hands if you know a friend, not you, but a friend who gained a couple of pounds during COVID. Does anyone have a friend gain a couple of pounds during COVID? No one wants to put it. They're like, my friend might see me putting up my hand. Yeah, fair enough. So September rolls around, September last year, and I say, this is silly. Here I am as a competitive bodybuilder and a fitness coach. I've got to do this stuff. I've got to turn this around. So you know what I do? I go onto Facebook, and I announce to the world every single Monday morning, I'm going to stand on the scale, I'm going to snap a photograph of my weight, and I'm going to text it out on Facebook for the whole world to see every Monday morning until I lose the 10 pounds. Very few people would be willing to do that. I had all sorts of people texting me. They were like hitting the like button. Wow, this is so inspiring. You've inspired me to start a diet. Great stuff. I don't know if any of them followed through because they didn't post their results. But they said they were inspired. Interestingly, do you know what was missing from the goal? I said I want to lose 10 pounds, 10 pounds of fat. What was missing? There was no deadline. There's no deadline, exactly. So I reached New Year's, and now I'm annoyed because I broke one of my own rules. I know this stuff. I teach this stuff, and I broke one of my own rules. Set a deadline. So January comes around, and I say to everybody on Facebook, I'm annoyed right now. I have not yet hit my goal, and the reason's obvious. I didn't set a timeline, a deadline, the goal is due. So now I'm setting a deadline. And I announce on Facebook, beginning of January, I have to hit on my scale 150.0 by March 31st, or I have to pay $1,000 to the person who I dislike the most, a political individual who I don't like. I have to pay $1,000 to somebody that I don't like if I don't hit 150.0 on my scale. And the deadline's March 31st. You know what was very fascinating that happened? What do you think started to happen to my weight? Started to drop like a rock. I no longer cared about winning a contest. I no longer cared about health. I no longer cared about nutrition or leadership. I cared there was no way that person was going to get my $1,000. And I tricked myself into doing the right thing for a silly reason. But sometimes we can play these little games to motivate ourselves. But the missing element was I didn't have a deadline. I needed to apply a deadline. And as soon as I did, boom, the goal got done. And because of that, now other people are following through and they're jumping on board with the fitness program that we're doing online. Leaders set a goal that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And as you pursue your goal, as you start to set the example and lead from the front, as you start to cast your vision and inspire people, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to run into obstacles. You are guaranteed to face a setback. You are guaranteed to face a problem going to happen. And so when it happens, leaders manage their attitude through the problem. Leaders understand, I know I'm going to face setbacks. I need to find a way through. And so when you face a setback, which is inevitable, by the way, when it happens, not if, do you give up? Do you quit? Do you throw in the towel? Or do you rise again and try harder? Do you try one more time? This is the acid test that separates the wannabes from the actual leaders. You will face rejection. You will face setbacks. You will face hurt and disappointments. My son is 13 years old, and I've raised him, my wife and I are both very positive people, and we've raised him in an environment to think positively. And a couple years ago, he was in grade 7, and he was playing the drums, and he wanted to get into jazz drumming. And he heard that we live in Durham region. He heard that there's a jazz performance group in Durham region. And so he wanted to join this. And so he's practicing, and he goes out and he auditions for the Durham Jazz Region team. And you know what? He didn't get it. He failed. They said, nice try, you didn't qualify. So he got rejected. He did not make the team. What does a leader do? they say to themselves, I'm going to try again. I'm going to practice harder. I'm going to study. I'm going to learn from the people who did get accepted. I'm going to practice and practice and practice, and I'm going to come back next year and try a second time, and next time I'll get it. And so the next year, grade 8, he goes out, he applies again, and that time he was accepted. Every one of you, you're going to try things. You're going to say to yourself, you know what, I want to inspire the people around me to lead a healthy lifestyle. And sometimes people will be excited about your idea. They'll say, hey, we're excited to join you, let's do it. But a lot of the times, guys, people won't get excited. A lot of the times you will put out an idea and nothing will happen. A lot of the times people might even say, that's a dumb idea. Why bother try? It is more likely you will hear that 90 times, and then 10% of the time you'll hear something positive. It's just easier in your own mind to think, I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to expect some rejection, I'm going to expect some setbacks, so when they inevitably happen, I don't get pushed off track. I follow through on my goal so that I can lead people on health and wellness. One of the things that we want to do, as we're setting a leadership example, is recognizing that it's great to be in a formal position of leadership. It's great when you start from a position of authority, like a boss, or a general of an army, or a teacher, or a parent, because it's a little easier. But if you really want to measure your leadership ability, try leading volunteers. So test your leadership abilities in a volunteer capacity, where you have no authority over other people. If you're in an organization right now, and there's a whole group of managers in the organization, and some of them are not very capable of leading, you don't think that they are very effective, one really good way to measure your leadership ability is to lead volunteers who you have no authority over. The only influence you have is your example and your ability to inspire and encourage. Because now you can't threaten them. You can't say, I'm the parent, do as I say. I'm the boss, do as I say. You have no ability. Try building and leading a volunteer army. That's the highest level of leadership. When you have no authority over other people, they follow you because of your example. I saw one of the best examples in my life of a wonderful lady do this, and she influenced me. Her name's Diane Harrison. Her and her husband, Brian, for years have been involved doing charitable work, volunteering in the community, serving the community, reaching out to people, helping people. They're two of the most caring, giving people I've ever met in my life. And for years and years, Brian and Diane would assemble boxes to send off to kids at holidays around the world, serving kids in developing nations that didn't have food or clothing or shelter, and sending them coloring books and toothpaste and toothbrushes and shoes to help these kids. Amazing stuff. And Brian and Diane, in 2003, got on an airplane and flew to Nicaragua and spent 2 weeks there doing volunteer work in Nicaragua. And Brian and Diane came back, and they were showing me the photographs of their volunteer trip. And I was so emotional watching the stories and looking at these photographs, seeing these kids in terrible situation, and so inspired by their example that they had already gone and done this. I was so emotional with tears in my eyes, so upset for these little kids that were in terrible circumstances. I said, what can I do? What can I do? And the only thing that I could think to do in that moment was to decide to say, when is your next volunteer trip? And Diane said to me, we're already planning it. It's going to be next year at the same time, next February. If she hadn't already been going, already set the example, already leading, when I felt a moment of inspiration, a moment of emotion, wanting to do something, if she had not already booked her plane tickets, I would have just walked away from the conversation, been upset about it for a little while, and forgotten about it. But because she said, we're already going, it's going to be next February, I was inspired by her leadership example. She had gone ahead. She was leading from the front. And my immediate answer was, sign me up on the next trip. And we got on the airplane the next February. And interestingly, as soon as I signed up, two of my other friends, Kevin and Bill, very shortly after, they also signed up. It's interesting, as one person starts to set the example and inspires another person, it inspires the next person, it inspires the next person. And so fast forward to the next February, we're on the airplane with 25 people, heading off to Nicaragua to spend 2 weeks in a mountain village building a school. It was an amazing experience, and it came down to the fact this lady, Diane Harrison, and her husband Brian, decided to lead from the front, decided to lead by showing their volunteer spirit and reaching out into the community to inspire others to follow their example. There are so many opportunities in this community, here in Markham, let alone around Canada, let alone around the world, where people are hurting, where people are in need of support, of inspiration. I bet you can think of causes that are important to you right now. What I'm going to encourage you to do is not just sit back and say, I'm going to wait for somebody else to lead. Say, what can I do to help? And one of the first places you can ask the question, what can I do to help, is in your own family. Leadership doesn't have to begin at school. It doesn't have to begin on the sports team. It can begin in your own household, beginning with your behavior, beginning with how you lead. So, mums and dads in the room, those of you with kids in the room, you have the opportunity to be a leader in your household. Every household is made up of the individuals, but each household has a culture. Some households are a fun household. Some households are a very academic household. They really study for their school tests. Some households are a very hardworking household. They all work very hard. Some households are a very athletic household. Some households are very focused on volunteering. Some households have a culture of leadership and performance. Some households are very focused on health and wellness. What is the culture of your household? And as you're sitting here listening to this, the mums and dads in the room, I want you to think for yourself, is the culture of my household a health and wellness culture? Are we focused on health and wellness in our home? Or do we just say, hey, boys and girls, you should do that, but maybe you're not leading yet. Maybe you are, which is great. But I think the first place we can begin to increase our leadership ability is in our own home. And so think for yourself, the mums and dads, what can you do to lead? You're already in a position of great authority and influence. You can lead by setting the example. You can set the example in your own diet, your own exercise, your own shopping choices, your own education. But let's wrap up with kids, because we got a lot of great kids here in the room. Do you know what, kids? You don't have to wait for mom and dad to decide the household is going to be a health and wellness household. Because maybe your mom and dad, they love you, you love them, they're super fun to be around, and mom and dad not only love you, they love donuts. Maybe mom and dad love you, and they love cookies. And mom and dad love you, and they love ice cream and popcorn and potato chips, and they love you so much, and maybe they love the couch a lot. And maybe you think, wow, mom and dad love the couch, and they love Oreos, and they love pizza, and they love all this stuff, but maybe you, sharp young man in the suit, maybe you can set the example of leading your mom and dad first. You don't have to wait for them. And so as we conclude our time here together today, for all of you youngsters in the room, even though it's easy to think mom and dad are the leader, you can actually be the one to inspire them. You can say, I don't want to get the junk food, let's buy some apples, let's buy some bananas. Hey, mom and dad, rather than watching the movie, why don't we go out for a walk? As the world starts opening up, hey, how about we go for a swim? How about we go for a bike ride? How about we do that instead? And by setting that example, you might inspire your mom and dad. You can inspire your classmates, you can inspire your teachers, you can start to inspire your community and the world around you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're reaching the end of our time. It has been such a pleasure being with you today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Acpn, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, folks. Take care. Take care. Coming up.
Oh, there we go. Please put your hands together once again for CJ Calvert. Thank you very much, CJ, for your professional and wonderful speech today. And like I said before, leadership is a very, very big topic. And to put it all in 1 hour or in a short time is very difficult. And of course, CJ, with his professionalism, we thank you once again for the amazing speech. And next, we have a audience and Q&A session. So audience, if you have questions, please. So do we have any questions?
有请。
Thank you so much for your speech, and we really enjoyed the speech. And it's a very unique idea, connection, the leadership with the wellness. Because before traditional, we never think about the leadership and wellness together. But you made it, and you make everything very clear. And I'll see like everybody here, especially the kids, it's really like your speech they love. That means they understand. Well done, that's really good. And for me, like a few days ago, me and my daughter just make a little research about you, and we know you a little bit. Especially we watched some videos, and my daughter really liked the videos about when you talk about the elevator. Remember the elevator story? She loves it. Now sometimes she copy you because she really liked the way you act, your speech, and she wants one day to become like you can speak with in front of so many people.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
You
and
can.
she now is a big fan of you.
Oh, I thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And for me, I'm kind of really like the video when you promote about your new book, which is like the COVID-19, and you mentioned about the one craft will not be like means like you are really totally broken. It means like it's just a test. It put test on you, and you just through it. That's very, very positive way.
Thank
and
you.
nowadays, COVID-19 make everybody just panic. People lost the goal. People lost the vision, and it's the time we stand up and trying to think about positively. And I'm going to read your book whenever I have time, and I definitely think I'll gain a lot.
Thank you so much.
So back to your speech, and I do have a questions for you.
Thank you. Okay.
So just now you mentioned about family wellness, leadership wellness. So my question is, like, as a parents, how should we do in order to help the kids to understand the leadership and with the wellness connection together? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for your question. And so as a parent, you've got such a wonderful opportunity because I'm a parent as well. And what I discovered on the parenting journey is every single thing I do, my little guy is watching it all of the time. And he starts to copy it all of the time, including the words that I say, my facial expressions, my emotional reactions if I get upset or if I remain calm, and what I put in my mouth. In fact, when we had my son, I would pull up to Tim Hortons all of the time, and I'd order a coffee. This is 13 years ago. And my little guy was maybe 2 years of age at the time. My wife would drive him in her car, and they would pass a Tim Hortons, and they'd see the sign for the Tim Hortons. And she would hear my son say, "Double, double." Because my son would hear me say it all of the time. He had no idea what it was, but it was such a very powerful lesson that our kids are always listening and always copying everything we do. So you're already in a leadership position. The very best thing I would do, if you want to inspire your wonderful daughter here, and thank you so much for your nice words, thank you, to inspire her is to, just as we've talked about tonight, think of your own goal and let your family, including your daughter, know your fitness goal, and you start doing your fitness goal. Not even talking to them about their goal, you just do your goal. You will be stunned by your positive example, how it starts coming up in conversation, and how your family starts saying, "Wow, Mom, it's amazing how you're following through on your goal. I want to do the same thing." And you paid me a very nice compliment, your daughter seeing the video and wanting to follow in the same footsteps. Well, when our kids see us doing something, they want to be like Mom and Dad. They want to copy Mom and Dad. So parents, give your kids a good example to copy. Does that make sense? Thank you for your question. Thank you.
My name is Jonathan, 11 years old. My question is, what is the best way developing leadership in class or even in school?
Great example. Jonathan, the very best way to show leadership in your classroom is think of the thing that you're the most excited about. Something that you have an interest in, that you're curious about, that you enjoy. Maybe something that you have a talent in. Sometimes, Jonathan, one of the ways we can show leadership is if all of the other kids in class are kind of being silly, we can say, hey, guys, the teacher's trying to talk, let's all be quiet. And you can kind of settle the kids down. Sometimes one of the ways you can show leadership in class is to get your homework done first. And you hand in your homework first, and then you say to some of the other kids who maybe are falling behind a little bit, let them know that you're willing to help them. Another thing you can do is think of after-school programs. Now, obviously, we're in the middle of COVID-19, but we're kind of coming out of COVID-19. So this is, thinking past COVID-19. As we're back in the schools and there's more programs and things that you can do after school. For example, a sports team. That's one area that we can show leadership. And Jonathan, you don't even have to be talented in a sport to show leadership. I am not a good athlete. Like I can't kick a ball, I can't throw a ball. But do you know what I could do if I were on a sports team? I could work the hardest. That I could show leadership in. I could show I'm on time for practice. And I set the example for other people to be on time. I could show I'm going to tidy up my area. I'm going to follow the coach's direction. And by setting that example, again, leadership, so much of it just comes back to example. And when you think about not just those simple things, but also maybe a bigger cause, a bigger thing that's important to you. For example, maybe in your mind, the environment is a cause that's very important to you. Or volunteer work in the community. My son wanted to, pre-COVID-19, wanted to put together some sandwiches for homeless people. And so he put together 50 sandwiches with my wife. And we drove downtown Toronto and handed out the sandwiches. But he was your age. He was 11 years old when he decided to do this. And he says, I'm going to do that. And some of the other kids got inspired by his example. And in fact, a whole group of people in the community wanted to do it a second time because of my son's example. This is adults. Like there's 200 adults that heard about my son's story and wanted to go then do the same thing. And so, Jonathan, you can inspire people by deciding to do something and showing them, I'm not going to wait for you, I'm going to do it. Does that make sense? Good question, buddy.
I enjoy your speech so much, especially the elevator one. It's so funny.
Thank you.
And I have a question for you. So there's 4 people in my family: my dad, my mom, me, and my brother. Okay. My dad is the leader of our family. Okay. And he never listens to any of us. So how can I tell my dad to let me be the leader of the family so I can lead my family to eat healthy?
Oh, to lead your family to eat healthy. First of all, great question. Thank you. Now, is your dad in the room? Dad's in the room, okay. So that's a very, very good question. And every family has its own dynamics. So the first thing that I would say is you always want to be respectful of your dad. Okay, you always want to be polite. You always want to show respect because he is your dad. Okay, and you want to honor all the hard work he does to care for you and support your family. But what you can do is, let's say you're looking at your dinner plate. You might have choices about what you. Oh, did I just lose the microphone? Or can you still hear me? Hopefully you can still hear me. Okay, so you have choices about what you eat. And so let's say you're looking at your dinner plate, and let's say you're about to eat your salad, and maybe you've got salad dressing that has cream in it, like ranch, or you've got salad dressing that is a vinaigrette. You can choose what salad dressing you put on, and that's leadership. If you're eating corn on the cob, my son, he got the habit from me, my son and I love to put butter, but I'm in a competition right now, so I'm not putting butter on anything. But you can choose, if you've got a big thing of corn on the cob, you could choose to put butter or you could choose not to. You could choose to shake a lot of salt onto things or not to. You can choose instead to say, if your mom and dad say, what do you want to drink? Maybe you've got choices of Coca-Cola, chocolate milk, orange juice, or water. You could choose the healthiest option. So you could say, I would like water, please. And you have control over those little tiny decisions. Sometimes, especially when we're younger and we're working with grown-ups, living with grown-ups, it might seem like there's a lot of things that get chosen for you, that you don't have a lot of control. And maybe some of those things are true. But inside of those things, there's little choices you have. Maybe on the pantry, is your brother older or younger, by the way? He's younger. Okay, oh, there's your little brother. Okay. I thought you were both going to high school. I couldn't tell. Wasn't sure, okay? And so one of the ways you can show leadership is maybe your mom and dad bought you some cookies. I don't know if they did, but maybe there's some cookies, okay? You don't have to reach for the cookie. You could not have the cookie. And as your little brother's reaching for the cookie, you could say, cookies are okay, but why don't we have instead carrots or an apple or a banana? Why don't we have fruit instead of the cookie? So even though your mom and dad will make a lot of choices and you may not feel like you have a lot of control, there's still little decisions you can do each day that you can start to lead. Here's another thing you can control. You could say, every single day, I'm going to get up, and do you have a bicycle or anything like that? Okay. So let's imagine it's nice weather outside, and your mom and dad let you ride the bicycle outside. You can say, instead of sitting in front of the TV and watching cartoons, I'm going to go ride my bicycle around the block in a safe area for 20 minutes. And every single day you say, Mom and Dad, I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to ride my bike. I'm going to ride my bike. And then maybe what starts to happen is your mom and dad say, wow, our daughter is exercising more than us. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. We should actually maybe go with her. Maybe we should go on a family walk together. Maybe they start getting inspired to say, why don't we all go together because we also want to spend the family time, but you're setting the positive example. So those are some little choices you can make that you have control over that could start to set a good example to inspire your mom and dad. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for your great question, by the way, and thank you for your nice words.
I have a question.
Okay.
What is the most important value that kids need to have to become a good leader?
What is the most important value somebody should have to become a good leader? Mm-hmm. Very good question. And this is a bit of a bigger question because the first thing that comes to mind is integrity. But to get into a more complicated conversation, there are many people around the world through history that are very effective leaders who don't have integrity. Like very, very bad, evil people are very effective leaders who they don't have integrity. So I would say for you, the first quality should be integrity, even though you don't necessarily need that to be a leader, but you should need that to be a leader, okay? The actual first quality, setting aside integrity, is the ability to take action on a goal. Because no one will follow you, really, by just saying go do something. The most effective way to lead is to set an example. So the ability to motivate yourself to take action on a goal is the most important quality, I believe, for a leader. Okay? So I would ask yourself, if I want to lead people, what are some of the things that I know I should do that maybe I don't really feel like doing? Maybe you say, I don't really feel like studying right now. I don't really feel like practicing the piano right now. I don't really feel like exercising right now. I don't really feel like eating healthy. I don't really feel like brushing my teeth, doing my homework, going to bed on time. I don't really feel like doing that. But if you can learn the ability to make yourself do things that you know you should do, even when you don't want to do them, and you can motivate you, then you can figure out how to motivate other people. Does that make sense? So figure out how to get yourself to do things. That's the first most important quality. Thank you for a great question.
Hello, my name is Selena.
Hi, Selena.
I have a question. How long did it take to fully get prepared for this speech?
26 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So the short answer is, Carrie, who so graciously invited me to join you today, you could wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning from a dead sleep and I could give this speech. Because I could talk for hours about this stuff. So I didn't really have to research or prepare this speech. What I did was I spent 26 years leading and 26 years teaching. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of like, let's say, you think of an amazing athlete. Of course, this last year we lost Kobe Bryant, who passed away in the helicopter crash. Prior to his passing, if you were to ask Kobe Bryant, how long did you have to practice for yesterday's basketball game? He would say years and years and years and years and years. Does that make sense? Exactly. So he didn't really practice for that game, even though he practiced. He practiced for years and years and years to get to the place he could do that game. So my simple answer is, since I was 20, I got exposed to leaders. And they said, hey, here's these great books about leadership. And I started going to business conferences that taught leadership. And I started to lead in my career. I started to lead people and lead sales teams and teaching them leadership. So I've been doing that since I was 20, and I'm 46 today. So the simple answer is, it only took me 10 minutes to prepare, but it really took me 26 years to prepare. Does that make sense? There you go. Great question.
Thanks.
You're welcome, Selena.
Thank you.
Today's live event is also being streamed on Zoom. And on Zoom meeting, we also have a lot of questions that we'd like to ask CJ.
Please.
So one of the questions here I have is, I'm an audience from Toronto, and after listening to your speech today, I'm particularly excited because it combines the leadership of nutrition and health. So may I ask the scientific popularization of the leadership of nutrition and health? Will you continue the research on this topic?
Will I continue the research on this topic?
Yes, research, yeah.
Oh, I am not a researcher, at least not in a formal sense.
Okay.
I guess I could say that I'm a researcher in a practical sense, that I will learn information from formal researchers and then go apply it.
Yes.
So what I can do is I can say that I will continue applying these principles in my own life, applying these principles in my community, applying these principles for Acpn and for the viewing audience, and for all the people around me. And what I've discovered is that the principles of leadership are not necessarily going to change 1,000 years from now.
Right.
Science will continue to improve. Science with health and wellness and nutrition, we will continue gaining more insights in that area. And so scientists, doctors, nutritionists, dietitians, they will continue to have more improvements and more insights that we can all share. And what we can do as leaders is we can bring those insights and think of ourselves as educators and continue sharing that education with the community, and that way we can be leaders with the new information. Hopefully that answers the person's question.
Thank you. So for myself here, I also have 3 questions here that I would like to ask you. So right now you are the world's first speaker to conduct a speech for the Wellness Leadership for Community, Family, Kids, and Youth. Please tell us why you have chosen this topic for today's session.
Oh, great question. I think that, first of all, as John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. Every country, every community, every business, every family, every human life rises and falls on leadership. And if we're going to apply leadership in business, if we're going to apply it with the world economy, if we're going to apply it with all of our political relationships around the world, I think first we need to apply leadership with our health and wellness. As I started our conversation at the beginning, if we don't have our health and wellness, we have nothing. So it doesn't benefit the world to make millions of dollars, but you're in a hospital bed with cancer. And so if we're going to change and save people's lives, if we're going to inspire them, I think the best place to inspire people is to take care of their own body so that they are healthy, they are active, they can live a fulfilling life, and then that is the foundation for leadership in every other area. So I couldn't think of a more important area to apply leadership to.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And the second question is, throughout your working relationship with Acpn, what comments do you have to share, and what challenges did you come across?
Well, my working relationship is primarily Carrie. Carrie's great. So I don't even know how I would answer that, except to say that I think rather than a challenge, an opportunity, let's use the word opportunity, would be to reach a broader audience, to get the message out to more people. And so if we want to think of a challenge that we face is how do we inspire more people? And so we're very fortunate that we've got technology, we've got the ability to Zoom around the world. And so I think the biggest challenge is how do we help more people take action on their own health and wellness? And so I want to challenge each of you watching online, each of you here in the room, that the challenge we face with inspiring people will only be solved by each of us making a personal decision. Each of us deciding in our own heart, in our own mind, that we will become a leader, and we will become a leader in the health and wellness area to inspire our family, to inspire our community, our friends at school, our colleagues at work, and help change the world.
Perfect. So this final question, which you pretty much have already answered most of it, what are your next steps and plans in this ongoing partnership with ACPN?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm very excited about this partnership. I think the Association of Certified Professional Nutritionists is a wonderful organization with such an important message. And I think the next steps are just continuing to do the good work of getting the message out, setting a positive example, and continuing to offer educational opportunities. And what we want to do is next time kind of set a goal for ourselves to reach a bigger audience, to bring more people into the room, to have more people online, to say, how many can we have? And that would be a smart goal. Let's set a measurable goal. Let's figure out how many people we're watching today and in attendance today, and double and triple it for next time. And that can be the next step that we take. So that would be the goal. Reach more people.
Yes, that's wonderful. And also because the COVID-19 restrictions right now is easing up and we can have more and more people inside a room. So of course, we hope to have CJ once again in the future to do more and more speeches on leadership. Absolutely. We have another question from our Zoom meeting for CJ. And the question is this: my dad has been eating a lot of unhealthy food. How do I help my dad eat healthier food? Every time we tell him to stop eating so much junk food, he stops eating for one day or two, but starts again.
That's a great question. How do you solve that? Well, aside from ourselves setting the example, let's imagine it's, do we know the age of the person? Is this a child or?
I believe it's probably a child, yes.
Okay. So if you want to change somebody else's behavior, obviously the first step is changing yourself. But really for them, I would talk to them about what their goal is. Because if the individual doesn't see a problem, they're not going to change. But in the question, they mentioned that their dad has tried a couple of times, that he'll change for a day or two and then drift back. So probably the dad at least acknowledges something needs to change. So the question for that then becomes, how do you help your dad follow through on an exercise program? I would talk to him, whoever you are, I would talk to your dad and ask your dad, what is your goal? Ask your dad, Dad, what's your goal? Or, depending upon the circumstance, Dad, do you think something needs to change? Or you could even more generally express it as concern and say, Dad, I'm concerned about you. I care about you. I'm worried that some of the choices you're making are not necessarily the healthiest choices. And I love you and I care for you. We're over here? Can't tell where we are. So I'm concerned you may not be making the healthiest choices. And I'm worried about that. Dad, is that something you're concerned about as well? And maybe your dad's already thinking about those things. So a lot of it depends upon your age and the relationship you have. If you're 10 years of age, you might be able to have a conversation, but you may not be able to improve your dad changing overnight. Doesn't mean you can't get your dad to change overnight. I remember one circumstance when I was in my 20s, one of the first leadership examples, there was a dad who was smoking. He was chain smoking. And the kid, maybe 8 or 10 years of age, knew that smoking was bad. But how does a 10-year-old get their parent to change? And so they'd had conversations and they'd heard in school that, smoking is very bad for you, smoking can kill you. And the child finally went to the dad and said, and this is somebody that I know, and said, Daddy, do you love me? He says, yeah. And the child says, well, do you love me enough to quit smoking? And Dad's like, oh. It's like a knife through his heart, right? And so the child says, Daddy, I'm crying because I'm scared that you're going to die and I want you to be there on my wedding day and to meet your grandkids when I have my own babies. And I'm scared that you're going to keep doing this, and I'm not going to have you later in my life. And so the child had no authority over the dad, no formal influence, but boy, oh boy, that was relationship leadership. And so the dad, it broke his heart into a million pieces as he started to realize the picture the child had painted, that he would arrive at his wedding and the dad wouldn't be there. The child would grow up and have kids and the dad wouldn't be there. And so he resolved, and he literally said these words. He says, okay, I'm going to stop quitting. I'm going to quit smoking because I love you. And if you ever, this dad literally said this, if you ever see me smoking a cigarette, what that means is I don't love you. And from that day, that dad never touched a cigarette. Ever. Because he had told the child, if you ever see me smoking a cigarette, it means I don't love you. So even if the dad was reaching because of the physical temptation with the nicotine receptors in his brain, the chemical addiction, he'd be like, oh, how can I look my child in the face and say, have him know I don't love him? And so he was able to get reach the threshold moment and get leverage on himself to change. So I would say, hey, Dad, I'm concerned about you. I love you. I really think you need to change, and start there, and then point your dad towards some resources, like a personal trainer or take him into a gym. That'd be a next step. Hopefully that helps.
Great. Thank you, CJ, for your answer, and thank you, Caitlin, for the question. Now, in addition, if I may just add to that, the way I would do it is go to the pantry that your dad put his snacks there. Put something else there next time. For example, put a bag of carrots, put a bag of tomatoes or something like that, and see how he reacts to that. And then finally one day he'll say, oh, my kids is sending me a message. Okay, time for me to change my eating habits. Because sometimes, well, this is from my opinion, right? Sometimes kids find it hard to express their feelings to their parents because they're worried about what they're going to say might hurt them.
Sure. Because
they're young, right? Because they're not sure what to say.
Yeah.
So instead of doing that, maybe try doing something passive, like for example, the example that I gave you, and see if they act differently. So that's just my little 2 cents.
That's a great suggestion as well. That's a great suggestion.
So today we are very honored to have CJ with us. The Wellness Leadership for Community, Family, Kids, and Youth is ACPN's newest event. So next we would like to welcome the Secretary General of ACPN, Carrie, to come on stage.
Thank you for coming today, and thank you, CJ.
So the first question actually for Carrie would be, why do you want to create Wellness Management and Leadership Program Community Wellness Platform?
The purpose in creating the Wellness Management and the Leadership Program and the Community Wellness Platform are very simple. Number one, to improve wellness. The second reason, improve wellness. The third reason, improve our wellness. But we find that in real life, it is easy to say, but it is the most difficult things to do it. How does everybody think about? I have 3 questions for everyone. We are living in an information age where knowledge is exploding in the areas of science, education, industry, products, and even Zoom meeting. So since there is a low lack of information, why are so many people experience so many health issues? And if we go shopping, we see so many products there. Can we have the ability to choose? 中文来说一下，就是说我们其实创始这个健康管理科学引领这个项目的初衷，一个非常简单的初衷，就是为了健康。第二个原因还是健康，第三还是为了提升我们的健康。我一共有3个问题问大家。第一个问题就是说，我们其实生活在一个科学、信息、教育、产业各种各样的活动，还包括比如说像今天的 Zoom meeting 太多了。我们其实生活在一个信息爆炸的一个年代，我们不停的去 run， 不停的去活动。表面上看我们是不缺科学、不缺信息。 但是为什么面临那么多健康问题的困扰？而且我们每次去 shopping 面临琳琅满目的商品，我们真的有选择权吗？我们有能力去选择吗？那怎么选呢？那背后的有什么科学吗？我想问问现场的观众，你们有没有这样的一些困扰？
我很有同感，因为现在尤其这个 COVID-19 期间，因为所有的信息 Zoom meeting 每天不断的很多信息。刚才你说的，我太有共鸣了。你说，看似我们有很多选择，但是实际上我们在琳琅满目的选择里面，其实有时候迷失了，对不对？所以刚才你提出第一个是健康，第二个健康，第三个还是健康，我非常同意，非常喜欢你那么强调，给我们一种那么强调的意识。还有刚才CJ you mentioned about the action. I think action is very important. So we don't always look around and get more information. But I think the most important part is we take action, right? And we set up the very specific goal and make everywhere and let somebody know. It seems like we take the real action about that. 所以行动还是行动，对吧？所以希望大家stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you. It's very good speech. Yeah.
Thank you.
那第二个问题问大家的是说 ，How can we achieve better health? What is the key point to break through this barrier? Like we have this so many information there. Have you think about it? Do you have some better solution? 我们面对这么多的这种信息爆炸的情况下，我们有没有方法去突破、提升健康的这些关键点在哪里？我们用什么样的力量去突破？我不知道大家有没有想过这个问题？因为我们每天被埋没在这些信息当中的时候，我们每天面临一种选择的时候，我们的选择是对的吗？我们的选择，我们的 action 是 science 的吗？还是说是 what's the action behind the science？ 这个是我们要去思考的。表面上 so many information， 但是 it's a problem. It's not a good sense. So how can we remove this barrier and break through it and get a real wellness? 因为其实我们已经被 covered by this so many information there. Even education, even science, we say it's good, but what's the best for us? John 问我说，你的创始这个项目的初衷是什么？第一个就讲健康，那第二个就是说我面临这么多的信息的时候，我有选择的能力吗？我这样选择的能力来自何方？我怎么样去提升我自己这样的一种能力 ？So how can I improve my health? Covered in so many informations, so many meetings. How can I stand up? Really stand up? 那实际上大家可以看看后面的这几个力量哈。我们是在做一个健康管理科学引领社区平台，那连接世界领先的科学与社区、家庭、儿童和青少年。但是你们看那个地方是站在巨人之间。How can we stand on the shoulders of giants? How to study the power to improve our health? What kind of power do we need? 我们需要什么样的力量去引领我们？我们有什么样的平台可以带领我们？三大的力量 ，One is science, the second is education, the third is leadership. 全息科学力、智慧教育力，第三个是健康引领力。因为面临那么多的信息的时候，我们怎么引领我们自己能够 jump out 跳出来，然后能够有个 big vision， 有个很高的一个视野视角去引领我们自己，引领我们的家庭，引领我们的社区。那这个全息科学力是什么？智慧教育力是什么？健康引领力是什么 ？What's the meaning of the science, education, and leadership? Discuss later, because actually it is a big topic, and we spend years and focus on it, how to stand up. So the third question is, what is the wellness leadership? You see, just the way listening to CJ's speech, how do you think about the wellness leadership? Who will be the wellness leader? 听了 CJ 的讲演，那我想问问大家，心里面有没有一个概念？什么是健康科学的引领力？谁来担当这样的健康科学的引领者？因为今天我们是在听 leadership， 但是实际上既然要有 action，who can be leader in the front, right？ 在我们家庭的里面，是谁来去担当这样一个责任？其实，健康是我们的生命，每个人都该是自己的 leader。然后，我们的孩子是我们的未来，那么实际上我们的家长应该是家庭里面的 leader。但是，当一个孩子去成为一个家庭未来的时候，我们的孩子应该去 leading our family。从 business 的角度出发，实际上，对于大健康产业来说 ，if you are the leader, you get more opportunity, you get more new careers related to big health industry. 实际上，这相互之间都是相连。当你 become the leader, higher, then you are success for your life, your family success in your life. 刚才我提了3个问题，就是说，在这个健康产业、科学这些信息爆炸的情况下，各种 meeting 爆炸的情况下，那我们的困惑是什么？第二个是说，我们在这困惑当中，我们有没有方法去突破它？第3个问题是说，去突破它的时候，我们发现说，leadership 其实在这里面扮演非常重要的一个角色。How can I be the wellness leader？ 我们能怎么样成为这样的一个 wellness leader 呢？通过我们未来的一些学习，这3方面问题有很好的回答的时候，相信我们通过学习科学、实践科学，成为提升你健康的 CEO 的时候，就是我们健康旅程的开始。希望我们的 Acpn 健康管理科学引领社区平台，能够帮助大家引领自己的未来，成为自己生命健康的创始人；引领家庭的未来，成为家庭健康科学的创始人；甚至走入大健康产业，引领社区的未来，成为社区健康科学的引领者。
The next question for the ACPN Secretary General Carrie is, what's the next ACPN's wellness plan for our community and family?
Well, actually, the wellness management and the leadership program, we have 3 layers. Talk about it, there are 3 powers we need to help us, to lead us, to stand up and become wellness. What kind of 3 powers? 1, science. 2nd, education. 3rd, yes, leadership. We will have 3 layers of program help us to link science, link smart education, and wellness leadership to community like professionals. This is the first layer. The second layer will link science to the family. The third level will link science to kids and the youth. And then in this way, will help us link science to community, family, kids, youth, layer by layer. Help us to unlock 3 powers to improve our health. It means science, education, and leadership. 针对家庭、社区与家庭的健康管理与科学引领力培训，我们的计划是什么呢？就是说3大力量去提升我们的健康。第一个力量就是科学。当我们面临健康相关领域的科学的时候，我们发现我们跟很多的科学家，还有一些教授去 我们去谈这个问题的时候，你就会发现说，哎，他这个科学家他只是说在几十门与健康领域相关科学当中，因为他得了诺贝尔奖，但它是非常窄的一个领域，而科学和健康这是其实涉及到几十门相关领域的科学，但是怎么来去衔接这些科学和科学之间的联系，然后得到一个完整的科学的解决方案呢？在世界上，当我们去跟农业部的专家去谈的时候，他们其实目前是没有 solution 的。我相信大家都有专业知识，这意味着说，你一定要懂这些所有的东西的时候，你才可以 make 一个 right decision, right? So 我们采取的方法是什么呢？第一个系统化，第二个简化，第三个可视化。那么呢 ，we will do like by systemize, simplify and visualize 所有的 all wellness related science together。我们这个平台就是去承载相关的一些科学，来去简化它、可视化它。但你知道小朋友们的角色是什么？其实小朋友他们可视化的角色比我们强很多。通过这几年我们的经验，大家可以上网上去可以看一下，我们都是8岁的孩子，就有非常非常优秀的一些作品出来。那么这些作品其实是把科学、艺术去简化了，然后变得来好玩、好学。就是说，通过这样一个过程，那么针对任何一个专业人士，他也不可能晚上去写这么东西，所以我们是去不同的领域的科学家和专家。像今天 ，like today, we link the leadership professionals, CJ, to our community, simplified, visualize. So we'll get the real points of the leadership, not the whole information exploding there. Which leadership is the real leadership? How can they know of them? How can the concept lead us? So we find the scientists, the professionals, link them to ourselves, to the community, to the family, to the kids. 这就是我们所做的一个工作。那么第一集就是连接科学与专业人士，因为实际上他们能够跟科学更接近一点，但是他们同样需要去填补这方面的空白，才可以跟我们更好的这个 advice。那么第二集连接科学与家庭，当我们把相关的健康领域的科学连接出来的时候，这一集呢就会更简化一些，进入到我们的家庭，但是它也是系统化、简化和可视化。为什么呢？因为我们每个人的时间精力都是非常非常的 limited 的，但是我们需要提升我们的健康。So this is our way to do it. Try to get the best solution. 那么我们会尽量得到尽可能的解决方案和科学的基础，来去支持一个健康管理的一个就是 advice 或者说是一个 solution，even 包括这个 science behind the industry, everything's there。好，然后我们第3集呢，连接的是儿童与青少年，因为我们知道家庭里面儿童是我们的未来，孩子没有了健康，一个家庭就真的是说就没有了未来。针对这个情况呢，我们这一集的话，我们的教材基本上是来自于孩子这一块，就青少年他们来制作教材，而不是说让那么50-60岁、40-50岁的成人去跟孩子去做交流，这是一个非常痛苦的过程。但是我们发现北美的孩子非常的厉害，他们其实只要跟专业人士连接以后，2019年的时候我们做的一个 National Nutrition Day 和 Life Cycle那个 nutrition 这个 competition， 那么做了有比赛的，那时候包括有小记者、小教育者、小老师，把这个是 Guelph 大学就是系主任，他们是具有很高的 vision 的，所以呢，我们是把他们直接拉到这个社区过来。但是我们把他拉过来的时候，他们其实说面对这么多的 exploding information 的时候，他们其实也不知道说 sometimes don't know。并不知道 what is the community need， 并不知道社区需要什么，所以说我们是几者联合起来去 concentrate like I and CJ concentrate on leadership plus wellness. What is the best thing to do? How to integrate them? 怎么样去融合它？那营养科学同样的道理，所以说我们是一点一滴在 integrate， 然后再呈现给大家一个很好的方案。那么其实大家有空可以上网去看看我们就是说跟 Dr. Bruce 还有不同的科学家去互动的一些情况，或者未来我们会在微信群里面会有群讲座，会把这些科学家的东西全部简化出来呈现给大家。好，这个是第3集。那么当我们去连接这些科学与社区的时候，实际上就是帮助我们站在巨人之间了。在这种情况下，我们会很快速的去理解真正的健康管理的一个概念，它怎么样去 make 一个 action， 怎么样去 lead us， 相关的这些就是说讲座，那我们其实是花了很多的时间去做这样的一个工作，一定是去系统化出来，然后去开启提升健康的3大力量。然后除了这个系列讲座以外，那还有就是说，那今天我们这个其实是科学家、专家、青少年面对面系列，就像今天 CJ 这样的一个情况，或者是想我们跟很多科学家来互动。接下来我们有相关的系列的科学家会走到这个讲台上来，帮助我们去智慧购物啊，到它的标准是什么呀？接下来的话就会有这个生命全周期与免疫力健康管理大赛这一块的话，实际上我们有很多的孩子、青少年，他们可以以义工的方式来参与。为什么呢？他们来参与其实就是在lead他们自己当家庭里面的义工，同时让我们的家庭的父母也给自己的孩子去当义工。我们会去专门有相关的这种参加比赛的说明会，教他们怎么样去当家庭里面的义工，怎么样去引领自己、引领家庭，来去管理自己的健康。在这个过程当中呢，我们发现我们的孩子其实都是融会贯通的，这方面能力提升了，然后其他学科的能力也都做了提升。然后还有好多孩子觉得说，哎，上课我怎么不打瞌睡了？去领悟到what is nutrition， 到底什么是真正的叫营养，什么叫健康？就在过程当中，健康是需要领悟的，但是同时也是需要有科学的引领的。2021年10月16号的时候呢，云集专家对话科学、实践生活、管理这个营养与免疫。你要lead自己，其实就是 action， 实践。但实践什么呢？实践科学。就欢迎大家能够来走进我们的这个健康管理科学引领平台。听了这个 CJ 的这个 leadership 以后，你就会了解到健康管理科学引领有几个内涵。健康管理这个地方，我们是与 Smart Education 连接起来的。科学是科学力，引领是引领力，所以这里面其实含有3大力量。第一个是 Science， 第二个是 Smart Education， 第3个是 Yes。我相信大家今天是一个起点，因为我们这么多年的努力。大家能够把这个精华能够带到这个现场，我们的内心有一个质变，在生活当中去 action plus science, smart education and leadership.
Thank you, Carrie, once again for sharing your thoughts. CJ, do you have anything else to add?
First of all, I think the Association of Certified Professional Nutritionists is a remarkable organization. And Carrie, you're doing such an amazing job leading and inspiring and organizing all of this. Sandy and Joe, you've done such a great job hosting. And I want to commend all of you watching at home, all of you here live in the audience. This is my first time speaking live on stage.
Okay.
Live audience online as well as live here in the room. But it's been my first time since March of 2020 to be live. And I chose to come out and do this for you because I believe so much in your organization and your message. And so my final parting thought is, let's take today and take the messages and the thoughts we've been sharing today and go use them and apply them. It's great to be entertained, but really let's do our own part by doing a positive action towards making the world better with wellness and showing leadership in that area. So thank you, Joe and Sandy. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, all of you watching and listening at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
大
much,
家能知
CJ.
道吗？今天这个 leadership， 我们其实花了半年多的时间跟他去 organize， 然后怎么去写，怎么去做。好，谢谢，谢谢大家。
So once again, today we are very grateful for CJ's speech. You have inspired us to pay attention to health and nutrition and guided our families to better manage our health. Equally important, children can become the next leader of health management science. Thank you, CJ.
好，谢谢。本次儿童青少年家庭健康管理科学引领力的主题演讲即将要与大家说再见了。科学家、专家、青少年面对面系列活动刚开始，还有更多的精彩等着您。欢迎观众朋友们的继续关注。您可以搜索 Acpn 的公众号，在屏幕下方扫二维码，我们还有更多的顶级专家演讲等着您。
Wellness leadership for community, family, kids, and youth. We look forward to see you again and working with you once again.
我们下期再见。尼克，你好，今天的这个讲座听完以后有什么样的感受呀？
I thought the speech was really good because it taught us a lot of good things for our lives, and it can change the world sometimes when we have healthy bodies, so we can just stay healthy for a long time and not get sick and become a leader and convince other people to do something that you think that can change the world. It is amazing. I enjoy it, and now I know how to lead my family to eat healthy.
I really liked the speech because it was very good and yeah, thanks.
I really enjoyed this speech, and it was a fantastic speech. I learned a lot from this speech, and also CJ has shared some fun example with us, which let us can learn more fun and easier.
First, I should thank ACP and give everybody's chance to learn the leadership, to learn the wellness. For us, our family before us never care about health. We eat whatever we eat. We eat cookies, we eat junk food. But from this speech, from now on, we'll decide to think more about healthy, to think more about how to using the leadership, especially as a parent, how to set up a good example from like not eat a junk food, not tell kids like you have to eat a lot of coffee. So from now on, we'll really to start from us. And meanwhile, we'll teach kids how to inspire for us or for their classmates. And for this speech, it's really meaningful. And also, I want to thank CJ, and it's really nice, and we really gain a lot. Especially my daughter is a fan of CJ, and after speech, I become a fan of CJ as well. We'll follow up him. Thank you.
今天来到这个现场真的很意外，所以有很多的惊喜，真的受益良多。因为CJ 刚才的演讲给我就是很多启发，因为我们一个家庭以一个健康的理念，把这个不但带到社区，带到学校，其实家庭是最重要的一个组成部分，是吧？所以这个健康可以从我们家长自己做起。然后带领孩子去做，而不是 push 孩子你要干嘛？所以今天谢谢这个平台，谢谢这个活动，然后希望在以后的生活中，我们就是对我们家庭来说，我们会有更健康的 lifestyle。